Yep, I've decided I'm going to create myself a little call-in song playlist so I can have this kind of vibe every single time I start doing something. Welcome back after morning tea. I reckon day 2 after the first morning tea, it's always the toughest session to come back into, isn't it? Because you really want to catch up with people. You really desperately need that sugar and coffee hit. So welcome back and thank you for being in the room. For those who I haven't met yet, my name is Kat Matson. I'm Brisbane's Chief Digital Officer and moderating the Plaza Terrace Room for the next few sessions. And I don't know about you, but I'm having an extraordinary time at Hopper Down Under. Who else is having a fabulous time? Yes, thank you. So it's fantastic to see so many of you in the room for our next conversation, because this next one is all around building community, and building community by, quite frankly, the reason that we are all here. Natasha Green is our next speaker, and I forgot, housekeeping. You know where the bathrooms are, I'm not going to go through that. Phones on silent, keep your conversations down. And the hashtag would be what, ladies? Thank you, and we are here. Thank you. All right, now back to Natasha. So Natasha Green is the Global Community Manager at anitaB.org. And she's also an entrepreneur, and I don't know how anyone does this, she was a former maths teacher. It doesn't matter where. I just think being a teacher is hard work. Being a maths teacher is extraordinarily hard work, but she was a former maths teacher in the New York City Department of Education. She also recently acquired her third Masters in Computational Chemistry, and she owns her own archery business. Yes, bow and arrow, archery. She's here today to talk to us about the community that you do not build will be the one that never happens. Would you please welcome to the stage Natasha Green.
For a weekend. So it's gonna be forever.
Woo! We gotta dance to this. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm excited because I was actually voluntold to be here. So for those who know the voluntold situation, y'all fully understand. So first, I want to acknowledge the country throughout, the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia, and recognize their connection to land, waters, and community. I pay my respects to them and their cultures, and to the elders, both past and present. I'm an individual who is grateful for those that came before me, and I'm continually learning from life and from others. This topic today is an accumulation of some of my learnings. I'mPower, I'mPower. The community you do not build will never happen. There are 2 definitions of the word community. There's one that defines it as a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. There's a second one that defines it as a condition of sharing or having certain attitudes and interests in common. Through the Mobilize app, AnitaB.org has implemented these 2 concepts. One is that we have groups for those living in the same area around the world. And 2, we have a group called Worldwide Volunteerism for individuals who have the change agent attitude. And we heard change agent yesterday, yes? In the talk, change agent, yes? Okay, y'all weren't listening to the keynote? Jesus. Okay, we're gonna have a long conversation. So I created this group because I believe in the power of each person to make a difference in the lives of others, no matter where they live in the world, or no matter how many people are behind them. When these folks want to make a difference, they do. And I plan on igniting the passion in this group of individuals so that the impact that they want to make is not a dream, but it is a reality. And I'm really passionate about things like that. And I'm jumping right into an example of when I did not build the community that I should have built. So I'm gonna proclaim it, I'm a nerd, right? And back in grade school, and yes, we are gonna cheer for the nerdiness in me. Y'all have seen nothing yet. So I was like, okay, nerd. How do we make sure that it's not a negative connotation, right? Nerd is not bad. And so I created the acronym of Needing Enlightenment Regardless of Distractions, right? I'm focused, I'm about to do this, right? And so the ideology behind this, or the premise, was that I was getting my master's in computational chemistry, and I was looking at my Fortran code. I mean, y'all know Fortran code? Anyone did a little Fortran back in the day? Okay, yeah, don't do it. So I was looking at my Fortran code, and I was like, oh, imagine if I could hang out with other people, right? And we could discuss journals in chemistry, right? And you have monthly meetings and speak about the journals and talk about chemical equations and second order differential equations, all this amazing stuff. And then I was gonna create these t-shirts. T-shirts are the things that you should do. And I was gonna have nerds on it, right? This whole thing, nerds, needed alignment regardless of distractions, right? And bolded on it, right? And this group, this AKA community idea, because it's a group of individuals with the same thought and ideas, did not pan out, right? And it was gonna be a student-led initiative of graduate students, because each one of us had our own labs and we were sort of isolated. So I wanted to create the community building opportunity, and there was a need for it. But what I did not do, I did not capitalize on this opportunity. And sometimes I think about it, and I'm just like, Tasha, maybe if you would have created this community, how many more people would have graduated, right, feeling supported? And then I talk to myself, I'm like, Tasha, you can't save the world. And that's right, you cannot save the world. You cannot, right? But what you can do is build something that you know will make a difference in your life and also make a difference in the lives of others. And that's something I really hope you leave here today. And another thing is I didn't create my nerd shirt, so I was gonna have cool swag, but one day I'll create the nerd shirt, but FYI, my nerd shirt. So what was shared already was really important, and my master's previously happened to be in mathematics education and educational leadership. And when I talk about being a perpetual learner, the reason why I'm able to build communities the way I would like to build them, the reason I'm able to make the impact that I like to make is because I'm always asking myself questions about other people, about where they're from, about what their needs might be. When I show the picture of the 4x4 matrix of myself, it's not that I'm self-absorbent, totally not, but because what Lisa said yesterday is true. We have so many different facets of who we are as individuals, and it's very important that we bring ourselves to our work, and we bring ourselves to this work. This work means connecting, guiding, and inspiring women with help from our allies. And you should bring yourself to wherever you go, because you are yourself, right? Like, you can't just say, self, stay over there and we'll talk later. It doesn't work that way, right? And so the reason why I connected with AnitaB.org was because I was working on finishing my master's, and it was taking like super long. Like, you know how that thing is like the never-ending story? It's like a song that goes on and doesn't end. And you're like, oh my God. So some context. I was working on a propagation, so my thesis, I was working on the propagation of a wave packet into a Y channel using time-dependent Schrödinger equation. And I was like, okay, this job takes 2 or 3 months. I don't know if you ever did jobs where you had to run a statistical analysis and everything like that, so it took a while. And then the computer will overheat. And I'm like, do you really have to overheat now and terminate my job? We're like 2 months in, 1 more month to go. And so I was like, you know what, I can't do this. This can't be serious. And so there was a point in my life when I was just like, I'm not finishing this master's. Like, this is not happening. I already have 2 and I'm good. Life is fine, right? And so that's like a whole nother story, but I heard about the Grace Hopper celebration, this community of women. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna attend this. It seems positive, let me go. And so I attended the 8,000 person event in Phoenix. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, you ever have that moment of, ah? Okay, you probably don't have those moments. I usually don't either. And so our founder, Dr. Anita Borg, believed in the community. So with her technical expertise and her fearless vision, she was like, I'm gonna inspire women. And I'm gonna make sure that we allow them to embrace technology in whatever form or manner that they want to. And what she believed then, it still has merit and importance today. And this is phenomenal, right? Because the vision is still real, the purpose is still real, she has passed away, but her legacy is carrying on between in us, because we are here. And for those who don't know, in 1987, Anita, she created a group of women came together, actually in the bathroom, and they, right, you can meet people anywhere. Just meet them where they are, folks. Meet them where they are. And she created a virtual community that continues to offer women a tech place of safe haven and support. So that's our online sisters group. At AnitaB.org, we added local communities in 2014 to create a space for all those interested in connecting and working with one another while we move towards our mission. We are continually pushing strategies to ensure we have a world where the technology mirrors the people and societies for whom they build it for. And this is important. And so at the conference, and really forgive me for these small, I did not know it was going to be so small in your eyes. They said 18 points work, but it doesn't. But at the conference in 2014, I was connected and guided by other women, and this is why I'm here. So I was connected to Rose Robinson, the former director of communities. She guided me to the sisters group at the conference and online, where I received some advice and encouragement to finish my master's. And in December of 2015, I felt inspired to say yes when she asked, hey, could you be a part of the CAR team of volunteers in New York City? And I was really gonna be like, but no, I didn't think that hard, I said yes. And so what did I say yes to? I said yes to organizing and facilitating events where women and allies can seek support, share aspirations, and explore personal or professional opportunities, and with the help from one another. And so being a volunteer leader for 1.5 years, gotta go back, 1.5 years, an independent contractor for 0.5 years, and my current position, and the 0.5 was like, that, hey, Rose, I'm not gonna really be a volunteer anymore. This is consuming my life, and I really think I should do other stuff like run my archery business and do, my ed tech startup. And then she's like, okay, Tasha, I understand. And then she was like, we really need help at Grace Hopper. And I'm like, to you? And she was like, yes, can you come help? I'm like, for you, I'll help. I don't need to get paid. I enjoy the work that I do. And then Rose was like, no, we're gonna pay you. And so what I did not know, unbeknownst to me, in her mind, she's like, I'm gonna get Tasha on this team. Like, she's gonna start working for us. And so that's when you start seeing in December 2017, I'm a volunteer, I'm an independent contractor, and then we come into January 2018, it's like, we're gonna hire you. And I'm like, okay. And so what I've learned happens to be around your attitude and the service attitude, right? And you really can't be about yourself when you're about building and encouraging others. And so that's something that I put top because I've been learning how to have a service attitude myself. I'm not always there. I think about myself sometimes, but that's okay. I'm working on improving myself. You create events that you would like, that you would want to be at, right? So imagine you create an event and you're like, I hate this event, I hate people. Like, who wants to be with you? Nobody. So make sure you like the event that you are creating. Be involved and connected. Right? So in New York and anywhere I go, I will go to a Women Who Code. I will go to a blockchain. I don't even know what they talk about sometimes, but I'll show up. I will go to UX design, and I just meet individuals who are amazing people. And I meet them because amazing likes amazing, right? And then the last one is show up. I mean, I could go so many ways with show up, but just show up. Because sometimes just showing up, you're in the right place at the right time, and you get some money. Okay, I'm lying, you don't get any money, that's okay. And because of these, learnings, in December 2017, as a contractor with Anita B, I started looking at this phrase, empowerment, right? And then I started focusing on the word empower. Like, what does this mean? And the word I'mPower started to emerge. So if y'all notice how you have empower, the little dash starts to detract from the E, then that dash starts to move, and then you see the I. Like, if we had one of those slow motions, then you'll start seeing the whole transition. But in the end, the I moves up and shows that we move from this concept of empower, or not really move, but I want people to understand that you see this idea of empower where someone is giving you the authority to do something, like, yes, you have the right to go do that. And it's different when you start saying, no, I have the power, like, I have the capacity to do this. Like, I was born for this, right? Okay, you might not say that now, but you're gonna say it. And the other part of power is the capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. And so I decided, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, you do not need anything given to you to decide of when you're gonna make a difference. When you decide that you're gonna make a difference, that is it. That idea is all you need. And that aha moment is the moment that allows you to ignite and make sure you build something of magnitude and of impact. And that's why when I started telling people, no, you're powerful, we're doing this I'mPower initiative and you are powerful. And that's why I decided, and I wasn't gonna do this. It was one of those things I heard Lisa, and then when I heard Sue, and then I'm like, you know what? Y'all all raised your hand yesterday and says, yes, we are here. You said you are here, right? Yeah, we said we were here. And so I'm actually gonna give you a little task because you're here and you're with each other. I know it's geeky, but I'm a teacher and I'm allowed to do this. I have rights. Okay. So on this slide is the 6 opportunities that were listed in the Women in STEM Decadal Plan for Australia. And it's to reach gender equity in the STEM fields. So what I would like each one of you to do is to take 2 to 3 minutes to pick one of these opportunities, and I'll read it out because they are small. And what I would like you to think about is, how can I contribute to this opportunity with who I am today or what I know today? Right? And you're gonna write it down, because I think y'all know when you start writing things down, you actually start putting it into the atmosphere, and something happens when you write, and that brain-hand connection, sort of neurology, which I don't know, starts to connect. And so the topics goes as follows. So please grab a paper in the center, and you will be sharing this with someone else. It's like homework that you don't know you have, so it's like classwork. And the topics are leadership and cohesion, evaluation, workplace culture, visibility, education, industry action, right? And so it means that you're gonna say, hey, I think I'm really great at visibility. What can you do in the realm of visibility that could move the needle, that can help this decadal plan become, like something that you are going to take and internalize? How can you do something around visibility? If you take education, what can you do around education? And I don't want to give you any hints or ideas because I have a lot. So what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna give you some time, is 2 minutes, think about that. And what you're gonna also do after you finish writing it, I would like for you to write your name on that and your email address, because you are gonna share it with the person next to you. You know why I said that, right? You need accountability partners in life. You will be held accountable, and you're taking a picture and sending it to me, so I could bother Sue and Sally and everyone else that we have people who said yes, they're volunteering. Any questions? And oh yeah, and I have here, find someone. It's just in purple and it's really low, but you could, it's right there on the 4th bullet point. All right, so you have 2 minutes. It's 6:07. At 4:05, I will, stop y'all. But I'm walking around because I want to see this. I like this stuff. Okay, I'll be down there. The decadal, like the whole plan, that was like 45, 60 pages. No, not right now. But I will pull it up my cell phone and show you. I'm coming. All right, TJ, I am back on the podium. So what you just did was very important, because that's actually how I create initiatives, right? How I create initiatives is I just write it down. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. That's it. So thank you for taking the time to create or further a solution that is already out there. If I had more time, I would want people to stand up. I would want you to say and declare, this is how I could give back. I know I have to create an alternative solution, meaning just take a picture, send it to me. But the last thing on your task is you got to share it with someone else. So you got to write a finished, complete sentence and pass it to someone next to you. And if they're not next to you, find them. And the goal is that that person is also going to connect with you, so you can ensure that you do create, or that you are a part of the plan to make a difference for have gender equity in STEM. I'm going to show you, and one thing I want to say is when you write it down and how you want to contribute, you actually harness and display the power in yourselves to be the change agent to ensure the decadal goals are reached. There's no turning back now, and you have been enlisted. Get all their names. Before I go, I will showcase some of the work that I have been doing at AnitaB.org. We have our local community leaders, local leadership team around the world doing events small or big. It's not the size always that matters, it's actually the heart, and it's actually having people know that they could come to you and count on you when they have questions and when they need help. We did 28 Days of Tech, it's on YouTube. I am so happy about this because I found a volunteer, no, she found me. And I was like, yes, I have an idea. And there was no project charter. It was just a sketch. I just want women to talk about the amazing, and allies, the amazing jobs they do, right? And what she did was a whole PowerPoint and then the slide and the colors. Y'all have to look at it. I was like, listen, I would not have done this. They would be like, boom, video camera, iPhone, let's put it up on YouTube. Anita B, they would have killed me. But this is a great, the branding, you gotta get the branding. This is a great initiative. The last thing that we're doing is called the Accountability Study Group. We have over 100 people already signed up and over around 30 mentors, and people are gonna learn JavaScript, responsive design, data visualization, Twilio Quest, AWS. We're all around the world. I'm really excited because this was just an idea, and I was that student, and I was that person that's trying to learn. And I'm like, I can't learn this by myself. AW who? Like this, I don't want to do this. But it's really exciting. Lastly, okay, not lastly, let me turn the page because I need to read off, because I thought about this. The first design was my design, right? And trying to craft my thoughts around empowerment and how I'mPower, this person can be powerful. The other design with the nice ladies on it is my friend's co-worker's Makita's. And it's drastically two different designs. But the important thing to note is that when you start your idea or initiative, you get others to join in, right, on the journey. And then they improve on it. So I know you're not gonna buy a card like the one on the left, but you will buy a card for the one on the right. And so when we think about time, treasure, talent, and thoughts, you all officially gave your thoughts today. Like you wrote down something that was gonna change how we do the work of impacting the lives of women and girls. And I appreciate that. And extended on the card that I gave you, Brenda's quotes on back. And I really want you to know that I believe her when she says that you being here matters, that you adding your voice matters, that your dream matters, and then your goals matters, right? And I do not get to tell each one of you that because I might not see you later, but you can see me. But know that when you decide that you matter enough to make that difference and change, that you're gonna have a whole lot of folks looking at you to be that inspiration and to be the legacy like Anita Borg was. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hands up who passed a note on to the next person and they're now committed to doing something to build the community here. Yep. Yep. Yep, and Natasha's handing out cards if you don't already have them. And it's the session before lunch. The best session of any day too, I say, because everyone's by now arrived, present, had coffee, had morning tea, and looking forward to the networking that will happen over lunchtime. For those who I haven't met yet, my name is Kat. I'm Brisbane's Chief Digital Officer and have been moderating this stage for most of yesterday. And this is my final session for today, and it's been an extraordinary pleasure to be a part of the inaugural Hopper Down Under. So the session before lunch is continuing the theme that we have seen a lot in this room this morning around women, leadership, and how do we actually fix the challenges that we experience when it comes to diversity. So I'd like to now introduce Dr. Cathy Foley, the Chief Scientist from CSIRO. And for those who don't know, CSIRO is actually Australia's national science agency and innovation catalyst. Now, I was actually just joking with Dr. Foley about how extensive her bio is, and so I've pulled out the highlights that mattered the most to me. But please, well, you know, the ones that I was like, whoa! But please check out her bio because it is impressive. Dr. Foley has made significant contributions to the understanding of superconducting materials and the development of devices using superconductors to detect magnetic fields and to locate valuable deposits of minerals. The part that I did like the most, because this is one of my mantras as well, as a leader at CSIRO, Cathy is working to increase collaboration across the sector to ensure that the research that is produced by CSIRO can actually be implemented to drive impact. And I think collaboration is one of the innate strengths of women in particular, and it's certainly one of my pet projects as well. How do we collaborate more to produce greater impact? So with that, would you please welcome to the stage Dr. Cathy Foley.
So thank you so much for the invitation to talk today. It's really exciting for me to be able to come and talk to you. The reason being that I've been around in Australia, in CSIRO for a very long time, and I've got some ideas which I want to share with you about why we need more women in leadership roles. So that's the why. The how we can make a difference and make some changes in the system, and what we need to do in changing the system. But the other one is also what you can do for yourself personally. So I pulled out these slides and they said you had to have something about me. So I'll do a quick about me so you know who I am. So I'm a physicist, but I sort of merged into electrical engineering as well. And in 1987, it was a big year because there was a discovery of high temperature superconductors. So they're a material that allows electricity to pass through them with zero resistance. The thing is, instead of using liquid helium, minus 270 something degrees, you could do it with hot materials like nitrogen, which is just minus 200 degrees. And everyone got very excited, even on the front page of Time magazine. So I was lucky to be brought into a team, but also at the same time, I started having children. And this is the reason I put this in is that I have 3 of my own children, 3 stepchildren. So you know, sometimes it doesn't always work. I got divorced, remarried. But the thing is interesting is that my children all went to long daycare at 11 weeks. They are now in their late 20s. In fact, my eldest one turned 30 this year. And they have all grown up to be normal, wonderful, loving children. I've done the experiment, so don't worry about long daycare or childcare. My children all, you know, they thought I was horrible when they were growing up, but they love me now and think I'm wonderful. So just remember that that's the case. Now back to science. This is my claim to fame. I worked out how to make a structure that is able, in this superconducting material, which is a ceramic, so trying to make an electronic device out of a ceramic, like a bathroom tile, is tricky. And I worked out how to make that grain boundary, which is about a nanometer in size. And that nanometer, for those of you not quick on that, your fingernails will grow about a nanometer in the next couple of seconds or so. So it's pretty small. And with that, we were able to make a detector that could detect very small magnetic fields. We could measure the ones from our brain or our heart. We actually decided to look for minerals. And so we, over a very long period of time, because it's not easy to develop a device and a system and an application, we finally got something which we called LANTEM. Call an experiment a name and they don't kill it. It's a bit like pets or children. And so LANTEM is now commercialized. But the thing was interesting is we went from, in the early 90s, doing field trials like this. And then the thing that's so exciting about the work that we all do is we contribute to things that are engineered outcomes, whether it's software or hardware, that leads to things that change the world. So that this is a field trial looking for minerals, and this is what comes out of it, the Cannington Silver Mine, which we helped delineate. And if we hadn't actually used the tool with my grain boundary, in this application, we would have ended up with a very different outcome. Anyway, I've had a fabulous life doing lots of things, and after being in CSIRO for 34 and a half years, I am the chief scientist of the whole organisation, which is sort of fantastic. It's like being a grandmother of the organisation, all care but no responsibility. You give the kids back when they're a bit of a pain. And, but it's something which is fantastic, and it's something which I hope I can share with you, things I've learned along the way. So why is it that we need to have more women in leadership roles? And I thought I'd just go through some evidence. So the first lot is that women are nearly 47% of all employees, and it's actually growing. Our participation rate, only about 61% of us actually are working, compared to 71% of men. We earn 14% less than men, but it's improving, but it's far too slow. Our super balances are 42% less than our male colleagues, which means that we're poorer. But more of us finish high school, and more of us have bachelor's degrees, but only 13% or 14% are chairs of boards of companies, about 26% are directors on companies, and only 17% are CEOs. Now, all those things are increasing, but very slowly. And if you look at it, we've got high levels of women who have high degree training or higher education training, but not so many in the technical trades. And so there's a balance there that we need to develop. Another thing is just who leads the world. This is really going down at the moment, but 11 or nearly 12% of the leaders or the governments of the world are led by women. And only 3, that's gone down, it used to be 5, have held the office for more than 5 years. So women often, when they're in a leadership role in government, it's very fragile. And then something else, some more evidence, is that we do a hell of a lot more housework. This is something which is a problem, because if you do that extra stuff, if you're running around vacuuming the lounge room and worrying about the kids and making the social secretary work happen, it means you don't have as much time to do what you really want to do. And it's very interesting to see that, and this is international, so whether it's in less developed or more developed nations, the blue bit is I do most of the housekeeping. The bottom bit, you can see that women still do most of the housekeeping. And so this is something where when I talk to men, I show them this and say, can you get off your backside, please, and do more housework? So why do we need more women in the workforce? And that is that when women work, economies grow. And I've just flipped through, you can see article after article, research document after research document that says when you have women in business, it's more profitable, that they have things where they're female executives. You find again that you end up with a better outcome for their business. You have better team performance. And I'm now going to just go through and give some real numbers to that. So for example, in Australia, if we actually boosted close the gap of number of women working to men, we would boost our GDP by 11%. If we actually had the same participation of women in the workforce as Canada does, we would grow our economy by $25 billion. If we increased the number of women in leadership positions, that would boost our economic activity by 20%. And the thing is, the flow-on effects are extraordinary. It's not just the women individuals being better off, but also it means we have increased tax revenue, we have less pension costs, but also less household savings. So what is there not to hurry up and do something about that? Now let's go down to the organisation. If you have women in leadership roles in organisations, customer satisfaction goes up, productivity goes up, profitability goes up. In the top 25% of companies with female executives, you can see return on equity, operating results. And then Fortune 500 companies with 3 or more women on boards, you can see return on sales, equity, return on invested capital. It all goes through the roof. So the evidence is there. And so it's obvious that if we want to have a successful economy, successful society, we actually need to have women in those leadership roles. So what's the current status at the moment? So this is from a New South Wales report a couple of years ago, and it's looking at, let's say we can have between 60 and 40% to say that's sort of about equity. You can see we still are very segmented into more traditional things where we've got plenty of women, but as soon as you go into business operations, senior academics, barristers, ASX 500, 200 directors, you can see we start falling away. So that's something we need to change. In my own organisation in CSIRO, I did a very deep and very careful scientific experiment here. You can see a number of women in different levels. So the full level at the top, which is we call 4, is like a postdoc. You can see we've got quite a number of women there, and it's growing. It's almost 50%. Great. But when you go down to the lower levels, or down the graph at the bottom there, that's like professor level in the organisation, level 8. You can see that we don't have anywhere near as many. And at the rate of increasing, that means that we're going to have to wait 150 years before we have 50% females. And I'd like to say that we're going to have a kick up, and we're working really hard to do that, but we're not there yet. So why is it? We've got the evidence that this is really important. So why is it we're not twisting the dial or turning the dial on this to have that impact? Because everyone will win. So the first thing is that it's not a level playing field. And there's some reasons why that's, and they're deeply social. So those of you who've been in a birthing suite or something, what is the first thing people say or look for when a child is born? What is it? What is it? Is it a boy or a girl? They don't worry about whether it's got fingers, toes, or whatever, whether it's AGPAR scores high or not. What they actually worry about is what is the gender. And from the moment you are born, how you are defined is very much based on your gender. How you relate to people is based on your gender. The expectations of you are based on your gender. And that's why as a society we have a lot of problems with transgender, gender fluidity, because it really goes against how we're brought up from the moment we're born. If you go through then and look at how that relates into how people perceive our performance, this is some work which was done. It's getting a bit old now, but it's still held up the test of time. It was in Nature magazine, so one of the top magazines. You can say it's probably able to be seen as good science. And what they went through and looked at comparison of men and women and looking at things like applications for grants and a whole range of different activities. But what they found was for women to get the same competency score, they had to have 2.6 times better stuff. And the thing that's really amazing is that productivity requirement means that we're doing all this housework, we don't have as much time, and yet we're expected to do a lot more to be able to show we're equally as good. The same thing too is another piece of research done, which was in PNAS journal. And what they did was get same CV, just changed the gender, Jack or Jane, had males and females assess them, and you can see the difference there in competency, hireability, and mentoring. And then, of course, the salary was different too, if you were saying, what is the salary? So immediately we're starting behind the 8 ball. The other thing that's interesting is looking at career paths. So if we say along here we've got career path as age and then seniority, and also probably how much you earn. That's sort of the classic one. You get promoted, and men mostly have that. Then you reach your Peter principle, and then you eventually retire. What you see with women is, and we've seen this a lot, where young women say, wow, I'm having a great experience, which is wonderful. Very similar to my male colleagues. And then something happens in their 30s, and often it's related to having children, but not always, and their careers start to plateau. But one of the things I've noticed, and this happened to me as well, is that in your late 40s, early 50s, the careers start taking off. And we see that women have a very different career path. And what we're saying is, how can we manage that bit in that plateau so that we're, as a section of the workforce, that we're supporting them and making sure that they're not lost? But also, how can we make sure that we have women staying there? Because if you look at the percentage of women in the workforce, this is age with percentage. At the time when your career is potentially taking off is when women are leading the workforce. So we need you to stay in there, hang in there, because you're going to have that great opportunity, like I've had, to really make that difference, because we're going to live longer anyway, and we're hopefully be fit and healthy, and you'll be able to get in there and make that difference. So one of the things that's really important, though, is knowing that you can see what is possible. And this is something which is interesting. When Kylie Minogue was a motor mechanic, and I thought, what was she, Darlene or something in Neighbours? Wasn't it? Charlene. You can see I was a big watcher. The thing that was really interesting was that there was a huge spike in girls doing motor mechanics. And then when she became a pop star, it fell away again. And the thing that's interesting was that seeing someone who you admire, you want to be like them. So one of the things that's really important is we need to be out there making sure that people can see what we're doing and what a great opportunity, what a great job it is, and what great lives we can have. So being seen. The other thing we need to do, though, is starting at the top. we need to go through and say, how can we change an organisation so we have more board directors? Because when you have more women board directors, you actually get more women executives. When you actually have women on boards, you have more robust pipelines. You have, and that's because of the role models. We also are able to see dismantling of the barriers, and we're also able to see that more executive officers or senior people coming into the workforce in a company that has more women on boards. And so a 10% increase in the board membership actually leads to a 21% increase of executives in the community. So starting at the board level, and if you're ever involved with whether it's an advisory board or any sort of board, make sure that you have plenty of women on it, because the flow down is unbelievable. And so the bottom line is we've got to get women on boards. 9 more things we can do for the system. Challenge the workplace culture. Why do we work the way we do? Why do we actually have to be present when we've got gadgets and things where we can work anywhere? Why is it that why do we have to operate in the way an organisation works? In Csiro, we've introduced a thing called balance, which means that we have to say yes if someone wants to have a different work arrangement. And it's something which has made an enormous difference to both men and women. We need to make the senior leaders accountable for diversity and inclusion in the organisation. It is not an HR role. They're there to support, but it is the leaders that have to take responsibility. We have to address gender bias head on, and I'll talk about that a bit more later. We need to make sure we have targeted training so that we actually uncover our individual thought process. We need to have that more flexible work arrangements and foster support of women's advancement into leadership. And what I mean is that whenever anyone asks me, who do you recommend for a role, or can you give some names, I actually, sorry guys, but I actually always give a huge list of women, because there always are hidden women there who are putting their names forward, and there's plenty of other people who list the guys. And then the other is also provide experimental learning programs, or experiential learning programs. So, for example, if someone is going on leave or you need someone act, put your hand up, because acting in a role gives you that experience. And the thing which I've found, though, is the number of times I've been asked, or other people have been asked to, women to be asked to take on an acting role, say, oh, maybe I need to just go home and check because I might have to reorganise childcare and things like that. And when I've come back to say, yep, I can do it, they say, oh, sorry, we thought you said no, so we actually gave it to Joe. So always say yes, because if it doesn't work out, you can say no later on. And then the other thing is we should just do it, as Justin Trudeau said in Canada when he had 50% women on his cabinet. We just need to do it because that's how things are. But the thing that's interesting is that you can have this perfect diversity group, but if it's just there in number, and you've got someone who's always speaking out and dominating, you've got everybody having groupthink where you don't think you can say something different. If you've got this idea where everyone's feeling like that they can't speak up in a meeting, or there's actually no respect for the differences in the room, then you're actually having diversity just in numbers isn't what it's about. So what can you do? First of all, we have to stop waiting for the system to change. And so what you're looking at there is, does anyone quickly, I'm running out of time, but very quick, it's a dog maybe, but it's actually a whole lot of spots. And then this one, hand it up, can you see a young woman? How about see an old woman? You're looking at the same picture. I won't go into the details, but unconscious bias is really big. And the thing is, there's also conscious bias too, where the number of times I've heard people saying, oh, this is all right in the room, yeah, great, I'm really onto this diversity, particularly gender diversity. And then as soon as they get out of the room with their mates, they actually say, well, actually, I don't, but I'll just go along with it because it's part of my KPI. We've got to knock that on the head. So 10 basic things you need to know about unconscious bias, and you can read them there, is that we actually all have it. None of us is perfect. Because we have so much information, like that thing with the dots or the person looking over their shoulder or not, that means that we are programmed to see things and take information in and make quick decisions. And so that means that we have incredible biases. So that, because we operate automatically, that means we need to do things to stop ourselves allowing that to happen. And so we can make sure that we go through different things and set up structures, which I'll talk about in a sec. So what we don't want to get to a point is where the unconscious bias is so great that we give up and we just say that all tall people seem to get promoted, so we won't worry about the short people. Here we go. So these are all the things that are leading to it. It's not just gender, but it's also sexuality, height. Did you know that taller men get paid on average $20,000 a year more on their first starting salary? And it works out to be a certain amount per inch of extra height. Age is also an issue, and as I'm getting older, you suddenly realise that age is something too, and of course colour. So how can we reduce bias? First is call it out when you see it. The second thing is to make an unconscious bias pledge at the beginning of every meeting. It's almost like having HSC shares. Why don't you have an unconscious bias share saying, when we're making decisions in this meeting, let's make sure that we are consciously going to make those decisions with as much unconscious bias as possible. Have a watchdog in the meeting whose job it is to just call it when they see it. Get training so you understand it. And don't apologise when it comes to saying I'm recognising some bias here. And also something, I read Michelle Obama's book recently, and something which I took away from that is when you're in a role and got privilege and opportunity, make sure you bring the people behind you. And if you see, whenever the Obamas had anything going on, when any event, they always reached out to all their community to bring them along to have and share the experience. And as leaders, that's something which we need to do and make sure that we're bringing people along to shadow, to experience, to make it so it's not just about me. I'm here already, I've had my life, I've had my opportunity, but I make sure the people behind me have that chance too. We just heard in the previous talk, which some of you weren't at, but Natasha was saying it's really important to put your hand up and try. And as women, we often say, I've tried once, but it didn't work. But you've got to keep trying, because, for example, this role I've had lots of failed opportunities where I put my hand up, didn't get it. But if just keep trying and not giving up, you will eventually get there. Because every time you have a put down, you actually will find that you learn something. And that's when you grow, is when things don't work. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to quickly go through things here. I'll just go through listing of things which are able to help you as a person. So mentoring and words count. Joining groups, and we've heard, I'm sure here, that putting your hand up, being part of a group, actually gives you that chance to have those networks, be introduced to the people who might promote you, who might employ you, who might just be there when you're down and need some support. Putting your hand up and helping at conferences like this, conferences have made my career. That's a whole different talk. Knowing though you've got to say balance, have balance, and say sometimes it's okay to say no. That your workplace experiences, or non-work-based experiences such as running the footy team or the tuck shop, or in my case, childcare centres and after-school care, actually taught me the greatest amount of running a business, running a P&L, dealing with staffing than any course I ever did. And then feel empowered to make the change. And put your hand up and say something's not working. But if it is so toxic, don't be afraid to leave. There's always other opportunities. And be bold and prioritise. And then specific things, find your voice. Make sure you can speak loud and project it. Learn to give a good talk, because you have to be able to pitch your ideas. When you've got to deal with somebody you don't like, think 10 nice things before you see them. That applies to children, husbands, as well as work colleagues. Or mother-in-laws or father-in-laws or whatever. Secret to confidence is the power pose. You know, this thing of standing here, opening up your chest. When you go out, I want you all to go out feeling big and bold. Keep fit, because you can cope with anything when you go for that run or jog or walk. Look, this is something that changed my life. Unfortunately, we are often the ones responsible for meals at night, and you get to that 3 o'clock stage where you think, oh my gosh, what are we having for dinner? Stress. This changed my life, where we make a list for the food for the week, put it on the fridge, go shopping for it, saves us a fortune in food, and whoever gets home first cooks. A colleague at work told me about this, and it was such good advice that I married him. So I can recommend it. Another thing for women is we have to worry about how we look. Men just put a tie on and suddenly everything's okay. We actually have to worry about what is the look. So before you go to bed, think about what is the perception you want to get across, and make sure that you actually think about that, how you're going to be perceived, and just dress correctly. You can still don't worry about housework. Make technology work for you. And something which, with making sure your batteries are charged, that you know how to run the programs, that it's there and it can empower you. So last two slides. First one is guiding thoughts. When the options and environment are more welcoming to women, everybody wins. Bias and lack of recognition of bias is holding Australia and your organisation back. It's false economy not to use the full human potential. And we should think about changing the default rules for work. And then for personally guiding thoughts is when you're avoiding tasks or making decisions, just remember to have courage. And when you're bogged down with the details and you can't figure out what to do, look not at your feet, but look to the horizon and remember what your vision is. What is your purpose? And then when you need that direction, remember what are your values when you're making decisions, because you can't go wrong. So I'll stop there. Thanks very much. I'm sorry I went over time.
That was fantastic, Cathy. Thank you. What I particularly liked is that notion of forget about the housework.
Oh, yeah.
And what's for dinner does my head in. I'm a single mum with two young boys, 14 and 11.
And all they do is eat.
All they do is eat, but also all they do is they do the housework. So when people say to me, how do I be a single mum? And it's like, because the kids do the housework and their pocket money is contingent on them doing their housework to my standard.
And it was fantastic. And you know what? They left home and our house is a disaster. And it's really interesting. My husband and I say, why is the house so dirty? We said,
the kids
because they're gone.
Yeah, mine's going to be the same.
I keep saying, I'm going to get a cleaner, but I haven't got there yet. So we've got a grubby house. So.
But I also think it's important that our boys will never not know how to keep a house.
Yeah, that's true. They need to know how to clean the toilet.
My son actually does it better than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you please thank Dr. Cathy Foley?
Thanks very much.
There was so much goodness in that conversation. I hope you took down at least half as many nuggets of what you're going to do tomorrow, next week in your organisation. It is now time for lunch, and it is also time for me to say goodbye from this stage. So thank you for having me.